Good afternoon, everyone. I'm sorry we didn't give a class this morning because I had somewhere to go. But now there is a class, so it's never too late. Let us fix up. We didn't. If you remember, we're learning about how to be happy. So the Rebbe is saying that the way to be happy, according to Judaism, true happiness, is to connect to the Creator of the universe. So how do you do that? So the Rebbe said, well, first of all, there is prayer. Prayer in Judaism means you have to think. You have to really use your mind to think about what reality really is. What's really reality? What is really reality? What's really true? Are we alive, existing on our own? Or is there a creator that's creating us? Well, Judaism says there is. Judaism says that there's a creator and he's creating us. And he's creating us because he loves us and he wants us to be here. He wants us to be individuals with personalities, with our own private lives and our families and work and the world and etc. But all those things can make you not happy. When they become happy, when you realize who you are. As soon as a Jew realizes who he is, then that already is the road to happiness. And who are we? So the Rebbe explained in great length what it means that the world is being created and how exactly that could really be, and we don't feel it. And if that's not impressive, because it's just too impossible to understand, well, what about the upper worlds? There's spiritual worlds. And we sense that there are spiritual worlds. We have a soul. We have a spiritual part of us. So you can sit down before you pray in the morning. And like I said before, if you want to know what Jewish prayer is, you have to buy a Jewish prayer book to look and see what it is. It's not just, singing songs and just saying words, whatever is magical formulas to God. It's getting inspired by something that's meaningful to you, like King David was. So you have to find something that's meaningful to you in the world and understand that God is creating that thing, whatever it is. God, your life is valuable to you. Your sight is valuable. Your hearing. Well, God is giving you your hearing. He's giving you your sight. God is creating the whole world. This is not a normal thing that a person thinks about. It's not a thing which, even if you do think about it, you can come to understand it, can come to grasp it. It's not like learning a new language or learning a new trade or something like that. And you can be taught by a teacher what to do, but you have to do it yourself because God is creating you individually. But you can't appreciate God because he's creating somebody else. You don't feel that he's creating somebody else, but you can feel yourself and you can feel that God is creating it. In order to come to this realization, you have to think. You have to think and you have to contemplate. And the last 2 days, they already gave us food for thought, what exactly we're supposed to think and how it is that God creates the world. And the world is created just from a little ray of godliness, just like all the foliage in the world with all the trees is enlivened just by a little bit of the life force which is in the ground. He gave us examples. Okay, says the Rebbe, but the way that's one way. That's like serving God, what's called the level of evening, nighttime, from the darkness. But there's another way, and that is by learning Torah. When a person learns Torah, is the Torah right now is a direct call to the creator of the universe. And even more than that, it's not a direct call to the creator of the universe. You just hear God's voice through the Torah, but the Torah is the will of God. It's like you're getting into God's mind, and God gets into your mind. The Torah, you are one with God. Okay, this you really have to think about because the Torah seems to be like a book, like any other book in the library. But when you realize the Torah is the will and the wisdom of God, then that's a tremendous happiness. A tremendous happiness in Torah, and the same thing with the commandments. So that's tremendous happiness. Says the Rebbe, what about a person that he can't spend his time learning Torah? What about a person that has to work? He's a working man, right? So what's he supposed to do? So the Rebbe says like this. Oh, here we go. Excuse me. When a person is a Baal Esek, he's a working man. Let me get this thing over here. When he is working in his business, oil, or even when he happens to be learning the Torah all the time, nevertheless, he can also make himself happy. When he does learn Torah, even a little bit, what he does learn, by means of thinking. What are you supposed to think? Yeah, the Torah is the essence of God. Well, right, the Kodesh Baruch Hu and the Torah and God are completely one. Even though that right now I'm sitting in my house in, wherever's in America, and I happen to be in Israel. No difference how you are. You're part of the creation, and I'm afar from God, but tachlit, I'm just thinking about, wow, I ran out of hubcaps in my store. I got to order more hubcaps. What's that got to do with God? Even though you're far away from God, since I'm occupied in matters of the world, and I'm not thinking at all about how God is creating me and the God is, I'm a normal person in the world. But but because of what you're doing in your job is permissible, as you can always come back to God because you're not tied down into the world. That's why it's called heter. You're doing things that are permissible. Okay, the Rebbe is saying something very interesting here, and this is also written in the Tanya, especially in the 6th chapter, the 7th chapter. And that is when God didn't just arbitrarily decide in the Torah what's forbidden and what's not forbidden. What's not arbitrarily? There's a whole system of reality connected to things that are there's 3 levels. Things that are commandments, things that are optional, they're not forbidden. Like kosher food, or you don't have to eat. You don't want to, right? If you want to, you can just drink, you can fast, you can eat fruits. You don't have to worry about kosher food. So there's things that are optional. A car, a business, right? You don't want a car, walk. You don't want a business, so you get hungry, you beg on the streets. You don't have to do this. It's not a commandment. Like to put on tefillin is a commandment, to keep Shabbat to the commandment. So the things that are holy, Torah, the commandments, there are things that are optional, like everything else in the world, that's like, 50% of the world. And then there's things that are forbidden. Those things are forbidden. And that's like a very big percentage of what there is in the world. Now, usually when someone does something that's forbidden, according to the Torah, it makes him insensitive to holiness. It makes him insensitive, insensitive to holiness. The more a person is sunk into doing things that are forbidden to do by God, is the more the person enjoys those things and thinks those things are God. They give him life. They're meaningful to him. He looks forward to it. And on the other hand, when he learns Torah, he doesn't come in, he doesn't feel anything, doesn't feel he's getting anything done whatsoever. So therefore, when a person does something that's forbidden, especially if he enjoys it, that's the point. Usually you do things that are forbidden because you enjoy them, usually. Or you enjoy going against God. So when the person does something that's forbidden, so he becomes tied down by that thing. The thing grabs a hold of him. It grabs a hold of him. It becomes his friend. like these people who are drug addicts or whatever, they have the person who provides them with their drugs, with their heroin or whatever. They think that person is the nicest guy. He's my big friend, right? Because he's providing me with pleasure and meaning in life. And it's all just a big fake out, but he's caught. He's caught. The same thing is when a person does something in the world that's against God, so therefore he becomes tied down. And he can't appreciate Torah, and he can't appreciate the commandments. Can't appreciate them. It doesn't mean anything to him. But if a person works in the world and deals with things that are not forbidden, but they're not commandments, they're just optional, they're permissible. So because they're permissible, the word heter also means to be untied, released. It's like, for instance, a person that is put in the hands of his enemy, right? He has to work in the job, but he's not tied down, and he can leave whenever he wants to, unless he trips over something that's forbidden. So when you're working in your job, then any second that you want to, you can come and learn Torah and do commandments, unless you do something forbidden in your job. You work on Shabbat, and you make more money on Shabbat. That makes it very difficult for you to break away from transgressing Shabbat. Why? Because it's paying you. It's pays to transgress Shabbat. You transgress Shabbat, you turn on the television or whatever it is, you get pleasure. And you can't imagine, how can a person live without this pleasure, just to sit in my house and do nothing, right? To do nothing. But the fact of the matter is no. If you sit in your house What do you get from television? It's stupid. 99% of it is total lies, and it's just a big waste of time. But you think, okay, that's all there is. So it lowers your whole perception of what life is. Value, it becomes a little bit less valuable. It says, but on the other hand, if a person does things that are permissible, then if he doesn't stumble in some sort of a sin, then it's when he learns Torah and he does commandments, he can appreciate it. It's impossible to feel the godliness. And even if the person does trip up in some sort of a sin, as ein lo takana im lo behirui tshuva, then okay, he's stuck unless he does tshuva. What does it mean, tshuva? A person that has done sins and he enjoys it and he wants to continue doing it, but he realizes that it's wrong. So what does he do? Stop doing it. It's very easy to say, but it's very difficult to do. You're enjoying it. And not only that, you stop whatever it is, like any addiction. You know, a person, a drunkard, he stops drinking, he feels terrible. A person that stops working on Shabbat, he doesn't feel good. It's very difficult for him. But a person who wants to start putting on tefillin every day, he's worried what's everybody going to think about me, and maybe I'll forget it, and it's hard. I don't want to do it. It's hard for him to get started. But even if he does a sin, and even if it's the worst sin, nevertheless, if he says to God, listen, God, I'm trapped. I can't get out of it. Help me. I want to get out. Then the more that a person thinks about how he is far away from God, by means that he recognizes who he is and he knows what his situation is, ve'itpalel, and he prays to God. I'm sorry, I misread it. Afilu even yoshev oil, even if a person sits and learns the Torah all the time, but still it could be that his mind is always wandering, or he's thinking about his business, or he should be in business, or he's thinking about worse things, right? He's thinking about things that are totally forbidden. Sha'ari, nevertheless, yochel daber devarim b'telim. I'm sorry, nevertheless, why? Because you see a person that he sits and learns Torah, nevertheless, it's very easy for him to just speak meaningless words that have nothing to do with holiness in the beginning of in the middle of learning. How much more so if he trips up and really doing some sort of a sin. For instance, when a person is young, he has a big desire to explore the world. And he also has all these lusts and things like that inside of his body. And he wants to connect to something, right? So a lot of times a person can connect to bad thoughts, bad speech, bad deeds. Everybody knows who they are. That even if he thinks about it, he wants to repent, he wants to change himself, and he does tshuva. But if he doesn't do a complete tshuva, and let's say a little bit of fasting he does, a little bit of holds his mouth from not talking. The more that a person thinks about this, and a person realizes how low he can become and how low he wants to become, then nimas, he becomes disgusted with himself. The yasim atzmo, and he takes it to heart, ki shirayim, that I am just like leftovers. Lama nivra ba'olam, why am I even here in the world? Then tiyes simchat nafsho, then you can be happy when you learn the Torah, and kafula mukupela, even more. A person that never did anything bad, so he thinks he's great, and he learns the Torah, great. But a person that did do bad things, and I don't advise anyone to do bad things. And the Alter Rebbe is also not advising anyone to do bad things. But if a person does do bad things and he transgressed against the Torah, even if he transgressed his whole entire life against the Torah, so what is a person supposed to do? First of all, say, God, I'm sorry. And second of all, he has to say to himself, listen, the reason I did all these sins and did these bad things is because I wanted to. And the fact of the matter is, I want to now. I still desire. I just realize it's not a good thing. I really want to. So it comes out you don't trust yourself. You come to not trust yourself. And the less that you trust yourself, you come to trust God. Because you discover that if you live your life without trusting yourself, without doing whatever you want or whatever you want, and you take into account what God wants, then you become more happy serving God, because God is the source of us. He's creating us. In fact, even more. So it ends up that a person that did do bad things and he came out of it, he serves God with an extra power. The person who never did any bad things, he trusts himself. He thinks everything is okay. Doesn't have any yearning to do bad things. Doesn't have to throw himself on God and say, I can't listen to myself. I must listen to my creator. It's automatically listens to God. So it's not a very, how do you say, dynamic relationship between him and God. But a person about tshuva, the person that did do bad things in his life, and even if he wants to do bad things again, but he says, listen, God, I want to stop doing this. Please give me the power to remove my mind from these bad thoughts or urges or whatever. Then it ends up that his attachment to God becomes very powerful. He's serving God with more power, more than he loves himself. That's what they call nafshecha. The atzvos that they're called levavecha. When but sometimes a person sits and learns Torah, and he's not happy. He becomes depressed. Why? Because he thinks that he deserves more. Mavakesh gedolot. I'm sitting and learning Torah. All these other Jews are not learning anything. Right? There's the non-religious Jews, the chilonim, and they're not learning it. And I'm learning Torah. I think I deserve a little bit more than the wife that I have and the family that I have, and I'm not getting any attention in the place of learning. And when I say something, people don't pay attention to me. At least they don't pay attention as much as I want to. And he wants to be big. Because he wants to be big, he wants to reach the level of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says that his Torah learning was his life. That's all he did. He just sat and learned Torah. And I can think to myself, listen, I am maybe not exactly that level, but I'm close. So I think I deserve a little bit of honor, a little bit of respect, a little bit of right. And so he thinks everything is coming to him. And because of that, he becomes a super bloated egotist. Kamosha Omar, like it says, like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he said, B'chad katirat katirna. I am attached totally to God. The Yechida. Pirish Shalo Ayah B'bechinat Shina, that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he was always conscious of God. He was always conscious of the fact that he is only a creation. He never went to sleep. He didn't have any dreams. He didn't have to be woken up, this love. Therefore, it says that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai did not have to pray. And the reason that I become depressed is because I sit and learn Torah, and I am like Rabbi Shimon. I should get at least a little bit of the honor of Rabbi Shimon. Well, believe me, Rabbi Shimon wasn't thinking about himself at all. Shekasufa says, over al pesha. Says that God, it says he passes over all sins. The she'erit nachadato says to who? To the remainder of his people. A person that makes himself like remainders, inyan gadol atzum shiflot, because he had tremendous humility, and that's what Rabbi Shimon had. I mean, just think about it for a second. If a person sits and learns Torah all day long, and he does all the commandments, and he does wonderful, amazing things, and some reason he just doesn't get, other people write books and they have all sorts of ideas and things like that, and they get all sorts of honor. Why don't I get it? So the answer is, why do these people get it? Because God gave it to them. And instead of thinking about what you don't have, think about what you do have. It's a big miracle that you're sitting and learning Torah. It's a big miracle that you're alive. So then a person say, yeah, it's right. The reason I'm getting all these blessings is because I deserve it. And the reason that other people are not learning Torah because they don't deserve it. So that's also a lie. The fact is, the reason you're learning Torah is that God gave you an urge that you want to learn. And it's all gifts from God. And any merits that you have are the merits from your forefathers. They weren't egotists like you. Says the Rebbe, if you want to be like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, then you have to be humble like Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and use the gifts that God gave you like God gave Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, because he didn't consider himself to be superior to anyone, like Moses. It just happened to be that, in fact, he was superior. He knew all these deep secrets and etc. of the Torah. The Torah says if a person has this proper attitude of humility and connection to the creator of the universe, and surrender to the creator of the universe, and awareness that everything we have and everything we are is from the creator of the universe, and we can attach ourselves even more deeply by learning the Torah and doing the commandments. In fact, that's the way we repay God, because that's what God wants from us, that we should attach ourselves to him. And it says, even if you did sins, then the Torah is called Ein Sof, and it passes over all sins. But the sins that a person did does not take over any place. God just passes over them. Just like the sun shines on the earth, in the place Shekola Zrichasa, where the sun shines most, there it is hot the most. Ora shemesh, kamo ala oretz mamash. So if you make yourself humble, you make yourself low, then it's like the sun shining on the earth. The lowest place, that's where the heat is the greatest. I mean, it's pretty amazing if you think about it. If you like outside of an airplane, you're in an airplane, and they're like what 2 miles up, 5 miles up, so it's cold. It's cold. Outside of an airplane, it's like 20 degrees below zero, 40 degrees, whatever. It's very cold. So a person could think, wait a second, why is it cold? The higher you get, it gets colder. On the top of Mount Everest, it's cold. Why should it be cold? You're closer to the sun. The closer that you are to the sun should be the hottest. Says no. The fact of the matter is that the lowest, the furthest away you are, when the sun hits, then it's called returning light, and it warms up that place wherever it is, and it becomes hotter. So deserts are hotter than mountains, even though the deserts are further away from God. They're way below sea level. The mountains are closer, but nevertheless, because the desert, that's where the sun hits. The same thing, a person that did sins, a person that humbles himself, he makes himself low, says there's more godliness there, there's more godliness. That's what it says. In the desert, it says, Avir, Yesh Torah the Shelga. It says, because there are mountains that are filled with snow. And same thing is with the Torah, the light of the Torah, the light of the so it is also the light of the Torah is even more in a person that is made himself humble. Shirayim or Moser B'olam, just like left over in the world. That's what it means that God passes over all sins. But that's only if God doesn't pay attention to the sins. If I do pay attention, I realize I can't trust myself. As soon as I start trusting myself, then I'll start doing what I think and what I feel. That's what King David said. Chatati negdi tamid. My sin is before me always. My sin is before me always. Okay. This is called Yaakov. This is Yaakov, that you fight with your bad, which is not the case. Yisrael. Yisrael is when a person gets a tremendous arousal from love, a free gift from above, and that we're going to talk about, God willing, tomorrow. All this is going to bring to a tremendous happiness because a person feels an extra surge of life. And that's what depression is, when a person feels dead. A person feels a lack of life. It doesn't feel alive. That brings to depression, and a surge of life, music, that person, then he feels happy. And a person can achieve this all the time by thinking about how lucky he is that God is constantly pouring life and existence into us every moment. And the Torah is the vessel to reveal this in the whole world, as we'll talk about, God willing, tomorrow.